Laurent Barthélemy was 14 and, like many young people, had dreams of a better life. Last month, he left his home in Abidjan and hid himself in the undercarriage of an Air France jet. He was found dead when it arrived in France. Back in Abidjan, his grieving parents and friends are trying to understand what prompted him to undertake the deadly journey.
The body of Laurent Barthélemy was returned from France to Abidjan 2 weeks ago. The discovery of the lifeless 14-year-old in the undercarriage of an Air France plane last month shocked the nation. Several stowaways trying to reach Europe from African countries have been reported in recent years, with most dying en route. His parents claimed they had never encouraged their son to go to Europe. At a ceremony in a church in Abidjan, family and friends paid tribute to Barthélemy as they struggled to explain why he had to sneak onto the plane.
What can lead these teenagers, 14-year-olds, to go to France in order to find themselves, so to speak? I think this can be caused by poverty, because if the government can't provide work for the youth, it can lead them to go find it elsewhere.
The head of his school, who organized a special remembrance ceremony for his shaken classmates, says teachers need to encourage children to build a future at home.
As a young person, I have learned a lesson from this, and I know that Ivory Coast has learned a lesson from this. Measures will be taken to avoid this happening again.
The 14-year-old is believed to have snuck into Abidjan Airport through a shanty town along the perimeter before jumping a fence. The authorities responded by clearing informal homes of thousands of residents living around the airport to create a security zone.
Now, one of the less common but most dangerous routes taken for the purposes of irregular migration is as a stowaway passenger on an aircraft. However, these journeys typically tend to result in one-way tickets to only one destination, death. While these occasions are extremely rare, especially amid heightened airport security measures around the globe, there are dozens of recorded instances of people hiding away in aircrafts, usually involving the Wilwell or of larger passenger airlines, while the jetliners' landing gear retracts. To discuss more on this issue is Engineer Roland Ahmed, who is the former National Vice President of the National Association of Aircraft Pilots and Engineers. Engineer Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us on the program. The discovery of a lifeless 14-year-old from Côte d'Ivoire in the undercarriage of an Air France plane last month shocked the nation. But it begs to question how easy getting on a plane has to be for a 14-year-old to successfully attempt, doesn't it? Is it really that easy? How exactly do stowaways hide in planes?
Getting into the airplane undercarriage is a very easy thing for a 14-year-old, especially when the airplane is on ground. There are no restrictions whatsoever. The undercarriage of an airplane is the landing gear or wheel structured beneath the aircraft. What the victim don't know is that when the undercarriage or the landing gear retracts, it squeezes or crushes the victim to death, and hence you find a lifeless body drops from the air when the undercarriage is lowered or extend to land the airplane. And sometimes, like the one that happened from the flight from Benin to Lagos, the victim survived, probably due to maybe low altitude. The airplane was flying, and again a short distance from Benin to Lagos. And also, like the victim probably was able to adjust him or herself in such a way that the undercarriage did not touch him or her. And another thing is that when you peep at the belly of the aircraft, you tend to see a kind of space in there that is seemingly very, very, very large, for anybody to hang himself in there. So I think that illusion that sometimes they can hang in there and probably survive is what makes some of them attempt such, because usually such will really happen with some insider information, or probably it's just some risk takers or some adventurers that have this illusion that the pasture is always greener out there. So they just find that it's an easy way to probably jet out of the country since they cannot get probably visa or get their ticket.
We had an attempt stowaway here in Nigeria last year, December, but there have been several cases of stowaways who are successful but end up being found dead around the world. But there are also rare cases of survival. How likely is a person to survive?
Survival is almost impossible. And for me, I would say it is impossible, especially when the airplane flies at a very high altitude. And like you know, the higher you go, the less oxygen you have for survival. Like I said, the flight from Benin to Lagos, the survival probably due to the low altitude and the distance, like I said. But certainly from the stories and the reports we have had on this undercarriage issue, the survival has been probably one, maybe out of every 5 or 6 persons that have survived it.
What is shocking, though, is that people are still attempting this horrific adventure. Are airside control area security to blame, or perhaps a lack of education linked with the dangers?
Several factors are involved. Like the one of the Cote d'Ivoire we saw not too long ago, the story of a young boy that has a dream to travel abroad. So you can imagine that lack of education can be the cause of that, or probably lack of awareness, and probably a very wrong illusion that traveling abroad is a way out of his present problems or probably predicaments. And so, SI security control, well, they're trying their best, but I think they also need to do some more. They need to do their best so that they can cope most of all of these incidents, because most of these people we've seen usually find their way through the fence of the airports and get in there. And some of them, again, through some outsider info. And also the airlines security also needs to also be vigilant and be watchful, especially the ground personnel when attending to the airplane on ground, especially when all doors and are closed and all ground equipment are withdrawn from the airplane preparing to depart. They need to do some final checks to ensure that nobody has sneaked into the undercarriage to probably want to find a way to escape.
Engineer Roland Ahmed, the former National Vice President of the National Association of Aircraft Pilots and Engineers, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa to share your thoughts with us.